Hello Internet, thanks for tuning in into Lifestyle Infinite. Sorry for the hiatus. I am back with a couple of vengeance. Been through a lot for the past year and a half. Here I am, rebuilt everything what I've lost. Back on my feet, stronger than ever. Ranting aside, today we will be resurrecting a Frankenstein. It's an amalgamation of my childhood dreams, some undead emotions, some old components lying around, sprinkled with a bit of utility. Without further ado, let's get the build rolling. Coming to the part selection, I know you must be scratching your head. Just to reconfirm, it's still 2025. And yes, there are optical drives. I am just going through the parts for now. We'll explain the reason behind the selection in some time. Starting with the mysterious package here. Last year, I purchased a combo which included Intel Xeon E5 2680 V3, two 8GB sticks of DDR4 ECC memory, and a mystery Chinese X99 motherboard. As this Xeon does not come with iGPU and I am on a tight budget, I happen to have my old GPU lying around. It's a Zotac Nvidia GT 710 1GB variant. Lost the box but tested and neatly packed by yours truly. My case did came with just one 120mm fan, so I opted for a Deepcool fan kit which comes with three 120mm fans and a fan hub. I also had my old CPU cooler lying around. This I used to cool my Core 2 Duo system about 6 years back. And yes, I have been using my Core 2 Duo system paired with a GT 710 for 10 years before upgrading to 2nd Gen Ryzen 7. For storage, I have yanked out my 500GB Kingston M.2 nvme SSD from my current system. Video coming soon. When it comes to power supply, I don't take any chances. This Corsair VS 450 80+ power supply has been sitting on my shelf, brand new, collecting dust since 2020. I also got a fresh tube of thermal paste. I have been using CoolerMaster MasterGel Pro for quite some time now. It holds up well. The weird flat syringe shape is quite helpful while applying thermal paste. For the case, I went with tried and tested Corsair Spec 01. If you are following my channel for quite some time now, you know this is my most recommended case. Might be a odd choice in 2025. It has a couple of 5.25 inch bays and also comes with one 120mm fan. Now, to address the elephant in the room, for the optical drives, this brand Daichi, I have no idea. I would have preferred going with LG or Asus. But optical drives are no longer manufactured or sold. The only ones available in the market were these pieces of garbage. This brand just refurbished drives, removes the branding, takes advantage of the obscurity, and charges more than those drives were originally priced, without providing any sort of warranty. Now, story time. My love for computing hardware goes a long way. Nowadays, it would be very hard to believe. RAM could be in megabytes, processor could be single core and single thread. But when I was wee little child, I got my first computer. It was cutting edge at that time. It had an Intel Pentium 4 processor paired with 128 MB of SD RAM. DDR was not in picture. It had a huge 40GB hard drive, a spinning hard drive. Not sure about the motherboard and other specs. It was a pre-built. After a few years, I started to learn about new computer hardware on the internet. Watched YouTube videos of famous YouTubers building PCs, gaming machines. I don't come from money, so upgrading frequently was out of the question. At that time, I learned about data centers, servers, and Xeons being used in them. I dreamt of building a powerful computer with these chips. But purchasing a Xeon processor at that time was impossible for a middle school kid. The itch was there, but there was nothing I could do. Now, I earn enough to indulge in my hobbies sometimes. Couple of years back, I saw a few YouTube videos about refurbished Xeons from decommissioned servers paired with Chinese X99 motherboard. All the listings in those videos were shown in AliExpress, and AliExpress is banned from where I live. So I searched in Amazon. No luck. I kept on searching every week. One fine day, this listing came to my attention. A seller selling those exact combos in Amazon. The prices were a bit jacked up, but at least I got the item combo. The mystery X99 Chinese motherboard, Intel Xeon E5 2680 V3 and two 8GB sticks of DDR4 ECC memory. I waited for nothing and pulled the trigger. The brand is nowhere to be found on the parts in the combo, so no warranty. If anything happens, you are on your own. Cheers! The motherboard has a weird form factor. It's smaller than micro ATX but bigger than ITX. The processor goes in inverted, has a nvme M.2 SSD slot, decent amount of USB 2 and 3 ports, no display output, and most importantly, no manual. Just to take a good look on the processor, let's release it from its prison. Finally, a childhood dream got fulfilled, holding the Xeon processor in my hands. It's quite bigger than expected in person. For reference, I am placing it side by side with an Intel Core 2 Quad Q6600. Been using it in the past, and an Intel Core i3 1200. Purchased it for a future video. Having 775 pads, 1700 pads, and 2011 pads. The Core 2 Quad and Xeon E5 2680 are closer in generation wise than the i3 12100. This is evident from the density of the pads. But this Xeon E5 2680 is huge compared to other processors in my collection. Sorry, I will not be pulling out my Ryzen 2700 for this comparison from my current system. Now, let's get started with the assembling. Presumably, we got a couple of ECC DDR4 8GB DIMMs in the combo. As usual, there is no branding to be found on these sticks. Just a few Micron chips slathered on the black PCB. I cannot see any special ECC chips, just a few NAND flash chips. Don't know whether this is ECC or some other tech I am unaware of, or the seller scammed me. Anyways, this kit has been sitting on my shelf for about a year, so no returns nor warranty. This teeny motherboard is very dense in terms of components. Does not feel cheap with the integrated metal CPU mounting plate. Now it's time for the SSD. This was pulled from my current system. It has served me well over the years, but 500 gigs was very limiting for me. I just upgraded my SSD on my current system to a 2TB one. Video coming soon. As this perfectly fine SSD with reasonable capacity was lying around, I decided not to waste more money. I used it in this build. Coming to the cooler, this I bought probably a decade back. I used this to cool my Core 2 Duo CPU, later which I upgraded to Core 2 Quad. This performed reasonably well. Few years back, when I upgraded to Ryzen 7, it came with a Wraith RGB cooler in the box, so this cooler was not in use anymore. The mounting mechanism which came with the cooler was similar to the mounting bracket came installed with the motherboard. Anyways, Xeons are power efficient, and I am going to use this occasionally anyways, so I decided to use it, paired with a generous amount of CoolerMaster thermal paste. Considering the IHS size, it fit like a glove. Now it's time to unbox the remaining components. The new power supply, which I have been holding for about 5 years, the GPU, which I have been using before upgrading to Nvidia GT 1660 Super, and fan kit, and most importantly the DVD-RW drives. Now coming to the case. The case choice is very peculiar. I have built quite a huge number of computers, more than 30 using this Corsair case for my friends and clients. Usually for budget builds, this was my go-to choice. In my older videos, you could see I am using this case quite often. I did not pay much attention to the finer details of the case. It had one pre-installed fan, one USB 2 and one USB 3 port, and other stuff that usually comes with budget cases. But over time, this case design grew on me. I built so many PCs using this case. I thought, why not build one for myself? But I could not justify building another PC just for the sake of using this case, while I have a perfectly good PC already. While planning for the Xeon build, this was the chance. While searching for new old stock, surprisingly, it was quite difficult to find one in 2025. I was surprised. The cost was double from the time when I used to recommend this case for budget builds. Still, I pulled the trigger. I started with installing the Deepcool fan kit. In my experience, these Chinese fans are notoriously difficult to install. I don't know why these manufacturers does not create threads for the fan screw to go in. While installing the fans for the first time, you need to have a beefy screwdriver and use a significant amount of your strength just to put the screws in, as these threads are being created on plastic while the metal screws to screw the fans to the case. But this is where I was wrong. I did not put in much thought regarding to the weird form factor of the motherboard. It was quite hard to line it with the pre-installed standoffs installed in the case. And I was not able to determine whether the motherboard was not lining up due to incorrectly placed standoffs, or there was not enough clearance between the fans and the RAM sticks. Off goes the fan and the motherboard was installed. It seems like the CPU fan header on the motherboard was not happy with the clearance left by the top fan. Now goes in the GPU. I just found out that when cases get old, the screws are more prone to stripping. I have been using this screwdriver set from the day I built my first computer, and this have not happened to me before. Now it's time for the power supply. I am installing it fan facing downwards as the case has cut out for power supply ventilation. Off camera, I have to remove the other top fan too to install the CPU power header and top row screws of the motherboard. One thing which I don't like about the case is there is nowhere to stash the extra power supply cables in the back. This motherboard also did not came with the front panel connector labels. Neither there was any manual nor there was any silkscreen printing on the motherboard itself. So I connected the headers in the order used by other motherboards, taking the missing pin as reference. And also I had to tighten the screws on the motherboard with force. Something was not allowing me to tighten the case mounted screws onto the motherboard normally. I don't know whether some pins were poking out from the back of the motherboard or it was purely due to the weird form factor of the motherboard. I was too tired to check. This build took more time than any other build I have done before. So it's time for the final inspection and first boot. Fingers crossed. Hopefully no magic smoke or fireworks break out on powering the system. I have been there. When I started working on my personal computer for the first time, I cheaped out on the power supply and saw fireworks on my Intel DG43NB motherboard. Other components were safe, but the motherboard was dead. Intel manufactured motherboards were incredibly rare. Now they don't make it anymore. So it was a great loss. From that day onwards, I only used reputed brand power supply, even if it costs more. Now I will try to boot the device for the first time. If anything goes wrong, it will be on camera. No magic smoke. It booted up into BIOS successfully. Everything's fine. Now it's time to install the remaining components. The DVD drive, not the motherboard, came with SATA cables. Luckily, I have accumulated quite a collection of SATA cables over the year. After cave diving, I managed to snag a couple of them. I have a huge CD DVD library, over 1000 disks, to store all my memories over the years. But sadly, my current MacBook or my editing PC does not have an optical drive. I have been planning to build a NAS soon. The Intel 12100 processor and the Corsair Vengeance DDR4 DIMMs which I showed earlier will be used in the NAS. Stay tuned, video coming soon. So one of the primary purpose of this PC is to be used as an ingest station to copy the contents of the optical disks into NAS. As everything is working, now it's time to stitch it up. Thanks for being there with me till the end. Like the video if you liked it or you got to know something useful. A sub if you loved it. It helps the channel a lot. I'm working on more content like this. So stay tuned. Peace out.